The 2012 presidential election decided. Political analysts are debating what the re-election of President Obama means for the country. The final electoral college count was 332 to 206, but the country remains sharply divided. Fresh off covering the election for the PBS NewsHour, anchor Judy Woodruff was in Oklahoma to receive the Gaylord Prize for Journalistic Excellence from the OU Gaylord College of Journalism and Mass Communication. Woodruff has covered 10 presidential elections, and while she was here, she talked to Dick Pryor about her impressions of the campaign and its outcome.
To me, this was one of the most divided elections in American history. The American people feel so strongly about the big issues of today. At least it comes across that way. I think it'll be interesting in the aftermath of the election to find out just how far apart people are, because the rhetoric was so charged, the labeling was as in some ways deleterious as I've heard it, the name calling. And so I will be interested to see if the American people are truly as divided as some of our politicians make it sound like they are. I hope they're not, for the good of the country.
Do you consider this to be a direction election? Some people were predicting that this election would give us some indication of the future of the country, which direction the country might go. Do you see that kind of a message coming out of this election?
I'm very wary of declaring an election as a mandate election. There were people who said when Ronald Reagan won his second term that the Democrats were out of power forever, and then lo and behold, 8 years later, Bill Clinton came in, and then you had Democrats doing very well, you know, under President Clinton, even after his impeachment. Democrats, I mean, they lost seats in the Congress, but the party was supportive of that president. And when President Obama won 4 years ago, there were people who said, well, the Democrats, you know, they're in control in the House and the Senate. Then lo and behold, 2 years later, in 2010, the Tea Party came along and won. So we are a country of strong views, but we're also a country of tough, and we're a country of tough problems. But we're also a country, I think, of short attention spans. And I think, we're an impatient people, and we want problems solved quickly. I mean, you saw that in this election. People looking to President Obama and saying, why haven't you fixed this recession, this economic downturn, even though it's the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression? People are very impatient. They want results. They want answers.
So you think it's more than a better organization on the part of the Obama campaign?
I think that was part of it. Clearly, the Obama folks had an extraordinary, never seen before, sophisticated, ultra-sophisticated ground game, get out the vote operation like nothing we have ever seen, and we've only begun to understand that. Modeling of voters, figuring out what everybody's preferences are, and figuring out what button do we push to reach that voter. It's something that the Republicans would dearly love to emulate, and my prediction is in 2016, they will have an equally sophisticated get-out-the-vote effort, unless the Democrats manage to stay ahead somehow. I don't know.
National Republicans identified some issues, and most people that have analyzed the election have identified the problems that they had nationally with women, Hispanics, and young people. Do you see that as something that the Republican Party has as a big challenge going forward?
The Republicans themselves say they have a huge challenge with the Latino vote. They lost the Latino vote by, I think it was 72 to 29%, some massive, 71, I'm sorry, to 29%, a massive loss, more than 2 to 1. Obviously, they lost the African-American vote, which everyone expected. The president won 93% of the African-American vote. African-American vote, people think of it as a niche. It was 13% of the overall vote in this election. The Latino vote was 10% of the overall vote, the biggest percentage of the Latino. You can no longer ignore a big swath of the American electorate and expect to win an election. And when the Republican Party took the strong position that it did on immigration in Arizona and in other parts of the country, and you've got voices in the Republican Party talking about sending Mexicans back to Mexico, building a tall fence and electrifying the fence, and some other really harsh language that was used. Not that Democrats were not saying, yes, we want more illegal immigration. They want a solution too, but they were talking, I think, about it in a more humane way than were some Republicans. And I think when Governor Romney decided to endorse some of those more extreme positions in the Republican Party on immigration, that clearly hurt him with the Latino vote. Even though much of the Latino vote, the Puerto Rican vote in Florida, these are individuals who, you know, they're not illegal immigrants, they're American. They come from Puerto Rico, which is an American, you know, connected to the United States. They don't have to go through citizenship procedures. But among the African American vote, Republicans need to, why should the Republicans lose the African American vote and get 7% of it, even with an African American president? Isn't there a message that they have? And they would argue, there are many Republicans who will argue they should have had a message. And with women, the president did not do as well with the women's vote as he did 4 years ago, but he still won the women's vote, I believe, by 10 percentage points. He lost white women. And in fact, the president lost the white vote by about 20 points. And I think that's something that Democrats and Republicans need to think about. What is it about the white voter in this country that was so responsive to the Romney argument and not responsive to the argument that President Obama was making? I think we've got a lot of questions that both parties want to take a look at.
And the rest of that interview may be seen next spring on Judy Woodruff on the Record, where the vaunted journalist discusses politics and the world of journalism.